Welcome back to the NolanBuilt Channel. Today we're going to show you in action the 72 GP automatic edge bander by Safety Speed. Alright, we got the power on to the unit, power on to the power feeder, and the power is on for the glue pot, but the glue pot won't start spinning until it reaches a certain temperature. So it'll go up to about 100 to 110 before it starts to turn this on. And when this light comes on, that means that the actual glue applicator that spins rotationally like so is hot enough for it to actually spin. And so with this machine, this thing will heat up to my set temperature, but before it hits here, it's going to go way past it and then come back down. And when it comes back down, that means it's ready to go. It's going to go way past it just to make sure all the glue in the glue pot is moving and liquid, and then it's going to come back down, and that's when you're able to start running pieces through. Alright, so before we get started, I'm going to blow it off with some compressed air. From my understanding, no edge bander likes a dusty environment, so most people either keep their edge bander covered up or they just clean it off before and after each use. Alright, so here are the parts that I will be edge banding, or it needs to be edge banded. But what I typically like to do is take some of the offcuts from this coming off of the CNC, which I have here. I like to take these and rip them down on the table saw and basically get clean edges, because some of these are the outer edge of the plywood. So I'll clean up the edges with the table saw and use these as my practice pieces to dial in my machine before I run the actual pieces through. And I do this with each and every job because no substrate is exactly the same. So as long as you have the same batch of material, you should be pretty good. But if you change material types or any type of that, any of those thicknesses change, then you want to adjust the machine accordingly as well. All right, we are set at our temperature, but before we start, I wanted to show you what the glue pellets look like and what brand and number I'm using. So this is what was recommended and came with the machine. Is the Joe Watt Therm 282.20, and I have my machine set at the recommended temperature of 135 to 140. All right, if your machine has been running for a while and not being in use, the automatic power feeder will turn off. In order to get it going again, you just simply turn the machine off, wait a couple of seconds, and then turn it back on, and now this guy should be running again. So if you get ready to run your first piece through and nothing happens, it's because this guy isn't moving and your piece will just get stuck right there and it won't go anywhere. So just turn it back off, turn it back on, and this guy will be ready to go. All right, before you get started, you want to check and make sure that your height for the power feeder is set to where you want it at, and mine will be set at 3/4. So I never reset it after the last video, so we're going to reset that now. All right, we'll lock that in. All right, so don't be like me. I typically always forget to turn dust collection on before I run my first piece. So this time I'm remembering because I'm trying to show you guys not to do the mistakes that I make. So let's turn this guy on and run our first piece. Alright, so that was our first test piece. As you can see here, we got a clean edge on the bottom side. Hopefully you can see this. And then on the top side, it looks like we need to adjust our trimmer to trim more off of the top side for this particular material. And then also we have a clean cut at the beginning, and then we have a piece here left on the edge on the back side. And this is from when I was doing long boards. Some of the boards will have bows in it, so I adjusted the sensitivity of the back sensor, and so that leaves a piece on there that I'll have to snip off later on, just so that I could avoid the fact of it tripping before I really wanted it to. So we can adjust that as well, and I will walk you through those different things on how to make adjustments in the next few steps. Alright, so we're going to start with adjusting the top trimmer. This is the top trimmer here. Alright, here we have our upper trimmer. Here's the adjustment knob. If we rotate counterclockwise, we will lower this, which that's what we want to do in order to take off more. And if we rotate clockwise, then we will raise it up, which that's not what we want to do, because then we will leave more on the workpiece. So we're going to rotate this counterclockwise a little bit, and now we can try our piece again. Alright, so now we want to talk about how we can adjust so that this piece right here isn't leaving a long offcut on the edge. And so with your machine comes a set of basically Allen keys, set of 3 for different size knobs on here. And what one of these is going to do is it's going to go into this Allen head right here, and it's going to adjust the ups and downs of this these two sensors, and that's going to tell us when this guillotine will trip here, which will be the guillotine that will control the cutting edge of this. Alright, so Allen key in here. If we rotate clockwise, it's going to start raising that up, which that is the opposite way we want to go. We want to go the opposite way so that we can lower it down. That means the sensor is going to trip earlier, so it's going to let off of it with the lighter pressure. And this is how you adjust this guillotine here. Alright, so now we're going to put everything back into place. And now we can try again. Alright, I don't know if you heard that or noticed that, but it seemed like and sounded like nothing happened. And that's because nothing did happen. So basically, when I adjusted the sensors on the front here, I adjusted them too low. And so that means that the board never contacted the sensors, and that means the trimmers never turned on. So while I was able to apply the edge banding, nothing happened with the trimmers as far as cutting them off before and after. So now we got to readjust and try again until we get it correct. And so instead of doing this repeatedly and showing you the repeated fails, I'm going to get this adjusted and then show you hopefully a nicely finished piece. So give me a second. Alright, I want to bring you in for troubleshooting. So a lot of times when you're doing these adjustments, you can go too low and your piece will go through, and this will trip too early, and then all your glue will come on your piece and then roll onto your roller. So let's go through a little troubleshooting on how to clean that up. So basically I got this guy, which is basically a plastic razor blade, where I can scrape this off without scratching the actual roller with abrasive tools. And then if you have any leftover residue like you see there, you're just going to take a rag with some acetone on it and wipe it off. Acetone gets rid of the glue residue really good. So we now have adjusted the front edge here, and the back edge is clean as well, and we have adjusted the edges here and here. A little bit of residue there, but now that the machine is adjusted, we can continue on with our actual work pieces. All right guys, so this is where we started at with the lip here and the leftover glue residue on this side and a good finished side on the bottom side. And then we flip it over to this side where we've made of our adjustments. We are a lot better on both sides, all four sides. So in my particular assessment, I can do a little bit more adjustments, but for time's sake and video sake, I am going to move on and show you some more adjustments that can be made on the edge bander itself for different things. So let's get to it. So the next adjustment that we want to make, or I want to show you that you can make, is how to adjust how much glue is being applied to your workpiece, so you can reduce it or increase it based on a little Allen key and adjustment spring back here. So let me show you that. So if you can see here, we have a little adjustment with a minus and a plus there. And so what that does is it moves your glue pressure roller in and out, and that is going to tell the glue how much glue is being put on it or not on it. So I adjust this going towards the plus sign, and I'll add more glue. If I adjust it to go towards the minus sign, then I'll reduce it. And you got to make that setting based on what type of glue you're using, what type of edge banding you're using, and just do a bunch of test pieces until you get good adhesion to your workpiece and not a lot of overflow on your edges, so to where it gums up your trimmer blades. Another adjustment that I want to show you is, I showed you initially how to adjust your top trim router. Now I want to show you how to adjust your back trim router, which we don't need to adjust it right now because it's already set pretty well, but I want to show you where to adjust it at. All right, so we are looking at this bolt here is your adjustment up and down for your rear or bottom trimmer. If you can see that, get a little closer, and then basically you take your Allen key and you adjust it up and down by that. And then your trim routers also can be adjusted in and out by a couple of levers here. You can undo this and adjust it in and out, and that also can adjust how well you're trimming your work pieces. All right, I don't think I showed this on the last video, but right here on the back side at the back trimmers is also your 4-inch dust port, and basically I have a Rockler Dust Right connection here with a 90-degree elbow coming off of there. But basically right here is where your dust collection will be for the machine. It is imperative to keep dust collection on so that when this thing is trimming, it's not leaving a lot of dust in parts and areas where it could potentially clog something up or get in the way of something. All right, I know I showed you this earlier, but this is the Joe Watt Therm 282.20. This is the hot glue pellets that we put in the back. And right now, my glue level is at a line where you can see where it's the indicator showing that you need to add some more. You don't want to let it get too low and potentially start running this machine too hot and start burning the glue. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when it hits that level, and then of course adding some in, and basically how much to add in. All right, we have our glue pot here. Let's get a little closer. Let's adjust that camera angle, and then we'll, now careful, this thing is hot. Anything that's metal is hot. This is kind of lukewarm, so I can grab this, and basically you can see what this looks like. And this is our glue that is already hot and melted right now. If you can see right here at the back of the machine is a little set screw, and also you can see this line coming up in the middle here. That is an indicator that we are at that midway point where the glue is starting to show the halfway point right there on this piece here. So now we know we need to add a little bit more glue in and make sure that we got enough to do the jobs that we are set out to do. All right, so now we're going to add some glue into this pot, and you don't want it to get too close to the front of the pot because you don't want these pellets to get sucked up into where the glue has been pulled up for your feeder. So that should be about enough right there. And then we can kind of spread that out, make sure it's not going to touch the top when we put the top back on. And now we can let that melt. And before you start using your machine again, you want to make sure that all of those are completely melted and let it just run for a little while so that you know that you're not going to get any clogs inside of your actual applicator. All right, so what I was trying to say in that video, what I realized is I hit time lapse instead of actual video record. And so what I was trying to say is this is the edges coming off of the machine, and this is the other side here. Let me see if I can get you a good angle there so you guys can see. Hopefully I can focus. And this is one of the smaller parts coming off, if you can see here. Now on these parts here, I have to cut these parts off by hand because the register for the guillotine is cutting off of this edge. So those will leave a little bit of overhang. I have to cut those by hand. But for the most part, this guy looks pretty good. Got some little residue there. Now, I cannot say that this machine is perfect every single time. There are times where I have to do a little bit of cleanup, just based on size of the piece, if there was any inflection on the pieces going in or out. And so, but overall, this is a really good machine, and it still hands down beats doing this by hand. Speaking of doing this by hand, this part here is too small for this machine. I believe the minimum size you can do is either 3.5 or 4 inches, and this will not, this is too small for the power feeder to grab, and it's too small for it to trip the sensors to tell everything else to start up. So I will have to edge band this one by hand and then trim it by hand also, which is not a big deal. You just have to, you know, account for that in your time for doing some of the small parts, which I've had some parts that are even smaller than this. So depending on how you design your cabinetry and what size parts or things you do, you're gonna have that. So it is what it is. All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. This machine has been good to me this year, and if there's any questions that you guys have on this machine that I didn't answer in this video, please leave a comment down below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability, or maybe if there is something that really needs to be seen, then we can do a follow-up video on this. But until next time, don't forget, like, subscribe, and comment down below. Later, guys.